Ever get that, like, eerie feeling? You know, when you're thinking about someone and bam, they call you right at that moment. It makes you go, whoa, a little, right? Well, hold on tight, because today we're cranking that feeling up to 11. We're talking twin telepathy, that mysterious link between identical twins. Get this, we're diving deep into a brand new study. It just came out in April from the Frontiers in Human Neuroscience journal. They wanted answers, hard proof, if possible, about what's actually going on in the brains of twins when they seem to be reading each other's minds. And spoiler alert, the way they did it is seriously cool. Picture this. They got these identical twins, ones who already swore they had some kind of telepathic thing going on and put them in separate rooms, totally isolated. One twin, the sender, they're looking at all these different images. Some are just, everyday stuff. But others, they were designed to get a reaction, make you feel something strong. Meanwhile, their twin, the receiver, they're hanging out in a totally dark room, absolutely zero clue what their sibling is seeing. Talk about a blind test, right? Now, here's where it gets really wild. To really get down to the nitty-gritty, the scientists use this technique. Get ready for it. It's called SSVEP-ERPC. Yeah, I know I drew a blank too the first time I heard it. Luckily, we've got our expert here to break it down for us.
So imagine this. You're at a packed rock concert, music blaring, crowd roaring. And amidst all that chaos, you're trying to pick out the sound of a pin dropping. That's what SSVEP-ERPC is like. It's like a super-powered microphone filtering out all the extraneous noise, zeroing in on that one tiny sound. In this case, it's about isolating the brain activity specifically related to seeing those images, even though the receiver twin hadn't actually seen them. Pretty neat, huh?
That is seriously impressive.
Yeah.
So it's not just about whether the receiver twin's brain was doing something. It's about finding an exact match to what the sender was experiencing.
You got it. And remember how I mentioned they specifically chose twins who already believed in their own telepathy? Well, that adds a whole other layer here. There's actually a ton of research into these kinds of experiences in twins. And it suggests they might be more in tune with each other, more sensitive to this type of connection, you could say.
Yeah.
So the researchers weren't starting from scratch. They were diving headfirst into some pretty deep waters.
And hold on, everyone, because this is where things get really good. Did they find anything down there in those deep waters? Well, get ready to be amazed, because what they found was kind of shocking. When the sender twin looked at an image, especially those emotionally charged ones, the receiver twin often showed changes in their brain activity at the exact same time.
And that's the key right there, that synchronization.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't just that both their brains were active, it was the timing that really made us sit up and take notice. If it was just random chance, we wouldn't expect those changes to line up so perfectly. But the fact that it happened precisely when the sender was looking at the image, that's a pretty strong hint that there's something more than coincidence going on here.
Okay, so it's like their brains were having a conversation, even across different rooms. Now, that's what I call a long-distance call. But as with all things science, there's a twist. Because while they found these brain patterns syncing up, they weren't exactly identical for every single twin pair they studied. And that, my friends, is where things get really interesting.
Yeah, and that's what makes this whole thing even more fascinating. If these connections are real, they're not just like a light switch, on or off. There's something more going on there, something unique to each twin pair.
So, okay, this is what really gets me thinking. Could this variability tell us how this connection works?
Yeah.
Like, are there any patterns they found?
That's the million-dollar question, right? It's like, we've got a few pieces of a puzzle, but no idea what the whole picture looks like. Maybe, and I'm just speculating here, but maybe twins who are super close emotionally, maybe their brain activity syncs up even more. Or maybe it's got something to do with shared experiences. It's wide open, honestly, begging for more research.
It's like they say, twice the fun, twice the mystery when it comes to twins. But speaking of mysteries, we got to address the elephant in the room. I mean, does this mean mind reading is real? Should I call up my twin and ask what I ate for breakfast yesterday?
Hold your horses. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, all right. This study alone, it doesn't prove mind reading, no. But it does make you think, right? It's pretty strong evidence that something interesting is definitely going on. It's not just random chance, that's for sure.
Right, it's not like they were both just thinking about pizza at the same time. Which, now that I mention it, kind of makes me want pizza. But anyway, what makes this research different from those old studies, like with the Zener cards?
Yeah.
You know, those cards with the wavy lines and the star. Those always seem kind of, I don't know, flimsy to me.
Oh, yeah, good point. Well, For one, this study used way more precise measurements of brain activity. Instead of looking for these big, obvious changes in brain waves, they were tracking these really subtle shifts happening at very specific times. Remember that rock concert analogy?
Ah, right. It's like they upgraded from those old headphones to a top-of-the-line sound system.
Yeah.
But why is that so important in this case?
It's all about sensitivity. With this new technology, they could pick up on stuff that might have been totally missed before. Plus, the effect they found in the study, it was pretty big, which means it wasn't just a fluke. It was a strong signal, something to really pay attention to.
Okay, so sensitive measurements, strong signal, anything else that makes this research stand out?
You know, the fact that they specifically chose twins who already said they had this telepathic connection, that's really interesting too. They were very upfront about it. It wasn't about generalizing to all twins, but really zooming in on a very specific phenomenon.
I see. So where does that leave us? Are we close to having scientific proof of twin telepathy, or is it still in that, like, X-Files category?
Here's the thing about science. It's not always about finding absolute proof, but more about building a case piece by piece. And this study, it's a pretty intriguing piece of the puzzle. It doesn't give us the whole picture, but it gives us something solid to work with.
It's like finding a scrap of a treasure map. We're not there yet, but at least we know we're headed in the right direction. And maybe it sparks even more questions along the way.
Exactly. For instance, think about this. In the study, they couldn't completely rule out the possibility that the twins were communicating somehow, even though they were apart. Even in separate rooms, there's always a chance, even a tiny one, that something could have tipped off the receiver twin.
Yeah, true, like maybe a cough or a sound through the wall. It happens. Which makes me wonder, what if they could make absolutely sure there was zero communication between them? Would the results be even stronger? That would be pretty convincing.
Absolutely. That's exactly why we need more research. To do it again, but even more carefully controlled, to see if this effect is real, even when you account for every little thing. That's how we separate those fun anecdotes from real scientific evidence.
And this is where my brain goes into overdrive. What if they took it a step further? Like, instead of random images, they used stuff that was really meaningful to each twin pair. Things only they would recognize. Could that, like, amplify the effect? Or maybe even show different patterns?
Now, that is a fascinating idea, and it gets to the heart of what this research is all about. It's not just about proving or disproving twin telepathy. It's about understanding what the human brain is truly capable of. We're talking about the limits of consciousness, of how we connect, what it means to be human. Pretty deep stuff.
I mean, it really makes you think, right? Like, what if there's actually something to this whole we're all connected idea? Could this twin telepathy thing be a clue to a deeper level of human connection that we haven't fully tapped into yet?
It's a pretty mind-blowing thought, isn't it? To think that we might have this whole other way of communicating, just waiting to be explored.
It's like we're talking about a sixth sense, but for, like, emotions and thoughts. But okay, let's say we don't all suddenly develop telepathic powers tomorrow.
Which, let's be honest, might be a little chaotic.
Yeah, could you imagine? But even if it doesn't go that far, think about the implications for psychology, for therapy, for just understanding each other better.
Absolutely. Imagine being able to really tap into someone's feelings, understand their perspective on a deeper level. It could change everything.
It's amazing to think that it all started with this study on twin telepathy. It just goes to show you never know where scientific curiosity might lead.
And to think, some people probably thought researching twin telepathy was a waste of time. But that's the beauty of science. You got to be willing to explore the unknown, even if it seems a little out there at first.
It reminds me of that saying, the only true wisdom is knowing you know nothing. Because honestly, when it comes to the brain, we've barely scratched the surface.
It's exciting, though, isn't it, knowing that there's still so much left to discover.
Totally. This deep dive has been a wild ride, from those tiny brainwaves all the way to the big, profound questions about what makes us human. We've explored a groundbreaking study, unpacked some serious science, and maybe even opened our minds to the possibilities of human connection. So, to everyone listening, keep that sense of wonder alive. The world is full of mysteries just waiting to be uncovered. Keep asking questions, keep diving deep, and who knows what amazing things you might find. Until next time.